Have you ever walked through an empty school, an abandoned mall, or a forgotten hallway, and felt like the walls were alive, as if they were watching you? What you're about to see isn't a scene from a movie. These places, known as liminal spaces, have claimed memories, time, and some say, reality itself. Whatever you do, don't enter alone. Liminal spaces are ordinary places that have become eerily unnatural. Think of empty school hallways after dark, vacant classrooms that still echo with phantom activity, or stairwells that just seem longer at night. It's a feeling of transition, of being caught between one place and the next. Urban explorers first started reporting strange occurrences in these locations decades ago. Some of the earliest accounts, passed down in hushed tones, tell of buildings where clocks suddenly stopped at the same time. Doors vanished right before people's eyes, and familiar corridors inexplicably shifted overnight. At first, local authorities dismissed these reports as elaborate pranks or vivid hallucinations. But as more stories emerged, a pattern began to form. Some of these accounts were never spoken of again, the witnesses seemingly disappearing along with the evidence. Official records were sealed, and investigations were mysteriously never released to the public. It was as if something, or someone, wanted to keep these phenomena hidden, buried beneath layers of bureaucracy and silence. The more people tried to uncover the truth, the deeper the mystery became, leaving only unanswered questions and a growing sense of unease about these forgotten places. Whispers and rumors started to circulate, spreading like wildfire through online forums and late-night conversations. People spoke of entire floors of abandoned schools that seemed to stretch on endlessly, staircases that led absolutely nowhere, and doors that opened into rooms that shouldn't exist, defying the very blueprints of the building. Those who dared to visit these places reported an overwhelming sense of being watched, a palpable presence that lingered just out of sight. They described hearing faint whispers in spaces that should have been completely silent, the sounds seeming to come from the walls themselves. A common piece of folklore among these communities is that if you blink, even for a second, the hallway will subtly change around you. A poster might move, a crack in the wall might disappear, or the light at the far end will seem just a little bit dimmer. Locals and seasoned explorers share a few critical warnings. Never go alone, and whatever you do, never look directly at the end of the corridor. They say that staring into that darkness is like inviting whatever lives there to notice you back. The warnings are clear, but for some, the pull of the unknown is just too strong to resist. The evidence that has been gathered is as unsettling as the stories. Investigators and urban explorers have documented hallways that appear perfectly normal at first, only to warp or elongate as they walk down them. It's a terrifying optical illusion that feels all too real. Security cameras, often set up to capture proof, frequently malfunction in these areas. They might flicker, go static, or capture fleeting blurs and distorted shapes that have no logical explanation. In one particularly chilling piece of footage, an explorer's camera showed a door that was clearly open one moment and then, in the next frame, it was completely gone, replaced by a solid wall. Witnesses have also reported seeing shadows that move against the laws of physics, stretching and bending in ways that are simply impossible. Some have described feeling a distinct presence just beyond their peripheral vision, a cold and intelligent awareness that seems to track their every step. It's not just a feeling of being watched, it's a feeling of being hunted. The closer they get to the heart of these spaces, the more reality itself seems to bend and break around them, leaving them to question their own senses. The psychological effects on those who venture into these places alone can be profound and long-lasting. Many report experiencing severe disorientation, completely losing their track of time and space. Some explorers have described walking down the same hallway for what felt like hours, only to suddenly find themselves right back where they started, with no memory of turning around. The experience often leaves a deep scar. After just a single visit, many suffer from chronic sleep disturbances, recurring nightmares, or a persistent paranoia that they are still being watched, even after they've left. One particularly disturbing account comes from a man who claimed he could feel his own reflection in the polished floor, tilting unnaturally toward him, as if the building itself was bending reality to trap him. He described it as a slow, deliberate pull, like the space was trying to absorb him. These aren't just ghost stories. They are documented psychological traumas that suggest these liminal spaces have a tangible, and often damaging, effect on the human mind. The very air seems to hum with an energy that unravels one's sense of self and sanity, leaving them forever changed. Today, many of these liminal buildings are now strictly off-limits to the public, or have been abandoned entirely, left to decay in silence. Official attempts to investigate deeper have often failed in bizarre and inexplicable ways. Exploration teams report that stairwells they just used have disappeared, corridors that were once straight now lead in circles, and cameras set up to monitor the locations capture only distorted, unusable imagery. The mystery remains unsolved, a puzzle with missing pieces that defy all logic. And yet, despite the dangers and the warnings, new explorers continue to be drawn to these places, sometimes disappearing and leaving only rumors and faint whispers behind. The question is, what are these spaces, and are they waiting for you? At night, these spaces become even more treacherous. The few lights that still work begin to flicker unpredictably, casting long, dancing shadows that seem to have a life of their own. As you walk down a corridor, you get the unnerving feeling that the walls themselves are shifting, subtly rearranging the layout of the building around you. Shadows gather in impossible angles, defying the sources of light, and creating corners where none should exist. Many who have ventured into these places report hearing faint murmurs, like whispers just on the edge of hearing, their words indistinct but their intent feeling sinister. They hear footsteps echoing in the silence, even when they're standing perfectly still, and know they are completely alone. Some have even sworn that objects move when they're not looking. A chair that was facing a window is suddenly turned towards the door. A book left on a table is now on the floor. It's the kind of thing that makes you question your own sanity, a subtle gaslighting by the environment itself. But perhaps the most disturbing accounts come from video recordings. Explorers have set up static cameras, hoping to capture the strangeness. On playback, they see corridors that were once straight stretching into impossible lengths, bending and twisting like something out of a nightmare. These distortions only seem to happen when no one is looking directly, as if the space is alive and actively hiding its true nature. These moments are brief, almost subliminal, but they are undeniable proof that something is fundamentally wrong with the geometry of these places. Several urban explorers, armed with cameras and night vision equipment, have tried to document these phenomena systematically. They ventured deep into these liminal spaces, hoping to bring back definitive proof. For the most part, their live footage showed nothing out of the ordinary, just empty, decaying rooms and silent hallways. The real horror began during playback. That's when they saw it. Hallways that were perfectly normal during recording would appear bent and distorted on the screen. Doors they had walked through would vanish from the footage, replaced by solid walls. Even more chilling were the blurred figures that would flicker at the edge of the frame for a split second before disappearing. These anomalies were never visible to the naked eye. They only existed on the tape, like digital ghosts trapped in the recording. Many of these tapes have a mysterious history. Some were reportedly confiscated by unknown authorities who showed up shortly after the footage was shared online. Others were quietly scrubbed from the internet, their uploaders vanishing from forums and social media without a trace. A pervasive rumor began to circulate among those who knew about these recordings. The tapes themselves were haunted. People who watched the footage reported a terrifying sensation of being watched. They would see movement in their peripheral vision, or feel a cold presence in the room with them, long after the video had ended. The horror, it seemed, wasn't just in the space it could follow you home. The lore of these liminal spaces is filled with stories of missing persons and unexplained incidents that defy rational explanation. Over the years, numerous explorers have vanished without a trace inside these architectural anomalies. Search parties would comb the buildings for days, finding no sign of the missing individuals, as if they had simply ceased to exist. In some cases, only their equipment was ever recovered. Even more unsettling are the accounts of those who did return. One story tells of a group of friends who went exploring in an abandoned office building. They split up for just a moment, and when they regrouped, one of them was missing. They searched for what felt like hours, their calls echoing unanswered through the empty floors. Eventually, they gave up and returned home, defeated and terrified. The next morning, their missing friend appeared on his doorstep, disoriented and confused. He claimed he had been walking for hours, navigating endless, repeating hallways, convinced he would never get out. To him, an entire day had passed. To his friends, he had only been gone for 15 minutes. In another infamous case, an entire team of paranormal investigators disappeared inside a deserted sanatorium. All that was left behind was their equipment. Their cameras contained corrupted files, and their notebooks were filled with frantic, distorted maps of the building. The hallways they sketched were nonsensical, looping back on themselves and leading to rooms that didn't exist on any blueprint. An official investigation was launched, but the findings were never made public. All that remains are the rumors and a creeping terror that keeps most people away. These stories serve as a stark warning to anyone who feels the pull to explore these forgotten places. The psychological horror of these spaces is perhaps more terrifying than any physical threat. Visitors frequently describe a sensation of time itself, bending and warping. Clocks, if they still work, have been seen moving backward. People hear the echo of their own footsteps just before they take a step, a chilling premonition of their own movement. The flickering lights aren't random. They sometimes pulse in a steady, hypnotic rhythm that seems to drill into your brain, a rhythm that has no logical source. There's a pervasive, inescapable feeling that the building itself is a conscious entity, and it is watching you. Corridors seem to subtly shift their dimensions when you're not paying attention. Reflections in grimy windows and broken mirrors don't always match your movements. For a split second, your reflection might turn its head a moment too late, or its smile might be wider than your own. Shadows seem to detach from their objects and follow you, clinging to your heels like silent stalkers. The fear isn't a sudden jump scare. It's a slow, creeping dread that seeps into your bones and doesn't let go. It's an insidious sense of being fundamentally unsafe. Many who have spent time in these places report intense physical reactions, sudden waves of nausea, severe vertigo that makes it hard to stand, and an overwhelming sense of panic that floods their system, screaming at them to leave. But leaving is often the hardest part, as the very exits you used to enter seem to have vanished, and every hallway leads you deeper into the maze. The final encounters described by eyewitnesses are the most baffling and frightening of all. The phenomena seem to be intelligent, actively avoiding direct observation. It's a common theme. You blink, and the world changes. You turn away from a doorway for a second, and when you look back, it's gone, replaced by a solid wall. You close your eyes to try and steady yourself, and when you open them again, the entire room has reconfigured. The hallway you were just in now leads in a completely different direction. Distorted figures, often described as tall and impossibly thin, with elongated limbs, are seen only out of the corner of the eye. Impossible geometric angles appear in the architecture. Corners that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space, making you feel sick just looking at them. Whispering voices are heard, but only when cameras and audio recorders mysteriously fail. These encounters seem designed to prey on the moments when our senses are obscured or our technology is useless. They happen in the blind spots of our perception. Experts who have analyzed these accounts are at a loss. Physicists can't explain the spatial or temporal distortions. Psychologists attribute it to sensory deprivation or suggestion. But that doesn't account for the consistency across so many independent reports. Authorities officially dismiss the claims as hoaxes or trespassing-related incidents. Yet, the phenomenon persists. The stories continue to surface, and the mystery deepens with every new visitor who dares to step across the threshold into these places that exist just outside of our understanding. If you ever encounter a liminal space, a deserted school, a forgotten mall, or a hallway that seems just a little too long, beware. Don't explore alone, don't blink. And remember, some spaces exist between reality and imagination, waiting silently. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare.